to the I-80 Club. Christ, how are you, Jack?
I'm just fine. This was a this was a heck of a comeback. If they made, they make a percentage chance of win chart for basketball games.
No,
this would be like Jack screwed it up, Jack screwed it up, Jack screwed it up, Josh doing great, Josh
not good
at the end.
Not good. I have no idea what in the world happened. I have no idea. Now, you started this, as you said, and while I was waiting and killing time and passively aggressively texting you to make sure you went into the proper room, aka reminding you, hey, we're on at 7 tonight, I then went into Sam's little radio thing that he started doing. I was like, cool, I'll check this out. And I clicked the hang up button to leave. And then after that, I could never hear anything else inside of my computer. So I had to completely do a hard restart. So that's really fun.
Oh, man, I knew I was going to screw that up when I reached back to turn my light on. Turned off something, so I can't see my second screen anymore.
We're off to an incredible start.
I knew I got this big beautiful. I've got this big beautiful TV here with nothing on it, and I'm sure I just unplugged something fairly simple, and I'm sure I could fix it, but I don't want to go back there in the middle of the show. So,
right. No, well,
I guess no live chat. No live chat interaction, which might be good.
Yeah, this is a normal thing for Jack. He regularly does not participate in the live chat, so he'll be doing that tonight. Welcome in. It's I-80 Live. Josh and Jack with you. If you're hanging out live, of course, it means you're a patron. It'll go up on the free feed at a later date, but we very much appreciate you hanging out with us tonight. A couple of things real fast. The second bonus episode of Volleyball State went up earlier today, so if you've not had a chance to check that out, if you are a subscriber to the community tier, you have access to that episode and other episodes that Volleyball State will put behind the paywall, plus their first newsletter, Jack, which went out earlier this week. So you can check all of that out right now at patreon.com/I-80 Club. And if you're hanging out listening to this, whether live on YouTube or after the fact, and you are a subscriber to the content tier and you're like, man, I really wish I could get access to that, you will bump up to the community tier. You'll have access to all of the Volleyball State stuff that they are doing. After Nebrasketball coming up on Saturday, brunch show coming up tomorrow, and I think, Jack, that is everything that we have going on in terms of housekeeping.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else just in case we've. Oh, and the other thing is that there is a new Discord I-80 Club radio station that I've created.
What is this? What is happening right now? What is this thing?
What a radio station does is it plays songs, and so it's like a podcast or Spotify, but it's live.
Sure.
And so now we have a voice channel that I have set a bot in. I mean, you basically can use this bot/app to request and play songs, and we have theme nights already planned, and there's a lot that's happened and you know what I'm calling it? I'm calling it.
Are you calling it I-80 All Request Radio Thursday Night 90s?
No, I've already picked a new name for it.
Okay, what is it going to be called now?
It's got call letters. It's KIAT.
KIAT. KIAT.
Say it faster.
KIAT. Oh, that's good, Jack. That's good. That's good. Well done. KIAT. Wow, that's good. Well done, Jack. Is there a KIAT around?
I don't know. I didn't look that up, but I'm going to sue the crap out of them. I know that's not how it works, but I'm a great lawyer. So,
Jack, I don't think that there is an actual radio station named
KIAT.
Right. So it looks like it's just a bunch of like random YouTube channels and stuff.
President Trump, get your FCC. Get your FCC to get me a license for those letters, even though I don't have an antenna.
What's the plan for this? What's the goal for this little radio? Is it just for people to hang out? I mean, gosh, I feel like you're going to leave me behind. What started as a way for you and I to talk sports this will become your area where you just go and you mix songs and you play songs over and over and over. That's the world.
This is a weird long-term plan for me, but you just finally got it. I was hoping basically within 5 years it's going to be a streaming music platform.
Damn it. I knew something else was going on over here. I don't
know. Now you remember my original dream of the I-80 Club does look different than the Discord part of the I-80 Club. Like I envisioned it being sort of this like interactive hub of people in private rooms gathering to watch. This was how I pictured the future. Interactive rooms, people sharing the screens, watching games together, having drinks together, listening to songs and music together. And that really didn't happen. We've taken some steps toward that, though, within the last couple of months. With the DJ mix parties and now KIAT. So
nice.
And so it's just, if you think it's stupid, you don't want to do it, don't do it.
You don't have to.
If you're working on your computer someday, though, and you usually listen to music, and you want to request songs, I mean, I know you could just request a song by clicking on Spotify or whatever, but you want to hear it like mixed in with other ones and not know what's coming next, like the old radio stations. We're going to do that. We're going to do different themes, and we're going to do stuff like that. So I don't know.
Perfect. And speaking of music, you got your DJ session coming up tomorrow.
Friday.
Is that the next time?
Yeah, I'm well, part of the reason, Josh, all this is happening is because I'm kind of bored.
Yes, you're locked in your basement.
I'm locked in my basement. I have been all week since Monday at 11 a.m. when I found out my co-host had COVID, after we had just spent, a long time together. And it was, he was not, it was not one of those non-symptomatic situations, let's just say. So, but I felt bad for him. I mean, he just came in because it's not real easy to get a sub sometimes at 4 a.m. So, but he's okay. I haven't had any problems, but my wife is getting knee surgery coming up on Monday, just like getting a meniscus taken out, but you cannot get sick. So
yeah, exactly.
So I am out of safety. I moved down to the basement, and so
you're back upstairs tomorrow.
What I said was you're supposed to wait 5 full days and then test. So I'm going to test Saturday.
Okay.
And then but I feel fine. I don't know. I'm not going to move up tomorrow because I got the DJ night tomorrow too. So
that's true. Exactly.
Just playing it safe,
Yeah. Sorry, honey. I got to stay downstairs.
I've been having so much fun playing around with Discord. I haven't really played around with Discord for a long time like I used to. So it's very nice. Good. It's fun. I enjoy that. I wish I hadn't turned my big TV off.
Yeah. Do you want to? I mean, we still have like an hour of the show to do. Do you want to test? Do you want to try to fix it for like 5 more seconds before we dive into all the things that we were going to get to?
Hang tight.
Right.
Yes, I can still talk here.
Along?
And kind of listen along.
Jack turned off his camera. And what's funny is, so I know that we have had this discussion before. By the way, Jack, the Nebraska women are up 68-66 right now in Illinois with 1:16 to go. So that's going on. But when Jack turns off his camera, since I have his picture kind of separated from me, I get to see him frozen, even though no one else is seeing him right now. And I guess it's just me hanging out here. So hopefully Jack is okay. I can still hear him. In the background. Dave Fight writes, out of abundance of caution. Yeah, God, this is the COVID times all over again, Jack. 5 years ago, everything was about to change. 5 years ago, everything was about to change. And now Jack is hopefully coming back and hopefully plugged in his TV as Nebraska misses. Oh, and it's going to be their ball with 47.2 seconds to go. Jack, how's it going?
I don't know if it's going to work or not, but whatever.
Okay. All right. Oh, now
Whoops.
Jack's gone.
Sorry.
It's just
sorry.
Oh, got to turn your camera back.
I will. I was I was like leaning forward into stuff, and it was not going to be a real, flattering look for me. So turn the camera off. I don't know. I can't fix it. Whatever. Who cares?
Adam writes, how's the new place? Going well. Unpacking is it is what it is, but we're getting there, man. I'm really happy with the progress that we've made this week. Are you watching the women's game, or did you get it fixed?
No, I just had the wrong. I didn't touch any cords. I just touched the wrong source. So
it was just the wrong input. Is that what was going on?
Somehow I switched the input when I reached over. So
memes, baby. What website is that? Oh, it's is that KenPom?
It's Bart.
Nice. Look at this. This is incredible stuff. But the move has gone well. I appreciate you asking, Adam. Here, I can give you a little tour of my office where Jack made fun of my running signs, so I put them high in the office.
Good. So get that crap out of my face. Nobody wants to see it.
It's radio. Though that tiny poster right there, that is actually a running related poster too. It fits there. So continuing to put everything together. I'm pretty happy with it. I think she is too. The thing we're waiting on right now, Jack, is the couch. We need the couch for the basement. So then because right now we have 2 chairs. And so when we go down there, to watch shows, which we've done a few times. We have to sit in separate chairs, like eating 2 separate bowls of popcorn.
Oh, crap. That was my ring light. Whatever.
Yep.
Nothing else messed up. You're not going to be able to see my face that good.
You actually look fairly fine. It didn't really change it as much as I would have expected it to.
I've been wasting my time. I see a big shadow. Whatever.
There is a big shadow right there. There is a big shadow right there.
All right. Don't worry about it. Keep talking. Yeah, you guys have to sit in separate chairs instead of the same chair that you usually sit in. What did I miss?
You just never listen.
You usually
Let's just
sit
talk
on
sports.
the same chair.
We sit on the same couch, Jack. The same couch.
Okay.
I rub her feet. We cuddle. Those types of things. We're still newlyweds, to be fair.
Right.
I know you and your wife have been married for 100 years.
20 years, and I now sleep in the basement, and she sleeps upstairs.
You don't even talk to each other anymore. Dude. Yeah, exactly.
I gotta make sure. It's so nice. Like I am.
Are you on the couch?
Yeah, but man, it's
comfortable.
No, it's good. It's good. My bed, I have got a Sleep Number bed, and it's got a leak in it, and so like a very slow leak, and so this is upstairs. So I set it. By the time I wake up, it's like way down, and I can feel my butt touching the bed frame, and it's bad. And so that's bad right now. And I got this is my favorite place right here where I am.
The I-80
and I can
Club.
just go and walk.
K-I-A-T.
Well, I meant my computers, but I can just walk over. Got a huge TV there. Got a little fridge down here. Like I'm just trying to gauge what her reaction would be if
you said I want to live down here now.
This is not, yeah. And like this is not about fighting or anything else. And we obviously
I'm happier down here.
Be together, but
it's not you, it's me.
And right, you can come and visit me. I can come visit you at all hours. That's fine. But like, what if just to see how it worked? And maybe absence throughout the night makes the heart grow fonder.
Absence of me being a DJ makes the heart grow fonder.
I don't know, but this has been it was a bit on your show for a while, but now Nebraska came back. Holy crap.
Wow, you just don't listen to anything I say.
Nothing
I say.
What happened? What did you say?
I said earlier Nebraska's winning the game.
Well, okay, sorry. They were down by like 5 last time I looked, so now they're ahead and they have the ball.
And they have the basketball.
Wow, I wonder what happened. I wish I was watching that.
Fight. I'll come up for dinner, I promise. Yeah, exactly. You'd come up at dinner time. You go upstairs, you see her, and then you go back downstairs to your new domicile.
I got a JFC for something. I don't really know what. But
probably wanting to go downstairs. Oh, you're ahead of me.
Nice.
Nice pass.
Oh,
nice
sorry.
Pass. Nope, you're good.
Good
Spoiler
news.
away. Yeah. Dude, you want to, hey, that's a good way to transition into hoops. You want to talk about a moment that I thought would have been an all-timer. And I mean, it's still really funny. But if they would have held on to win that game in overtime, when you said, I'm from the future and I bring good news. The fact that they ended up not closing out the game the other night is just so sad for all of the reasons. But especially for that. For the content of us. For the content of the I-80 Club. That was the funniest moment of the entire night. And now it just doesn't really matter very much. Doesn't really matter very much.
I know. It's just the trash heap of history now, of internet, YouTube history that will never be looked at again.
Correct.
But it was quite a night. It was a fun night until it wasn't.
How are you feeling now? You're going to unpack it a lot more with Caleb tomorrow, so I don't want to step on the toes too much of the brunch show, but we talked for a while about they need to get to 20, and then it was like, hey, well, 19 would probably be okay. Now the best they can do in the regular season is, of course, 18, a loss, and they're probably missing the Big Ten tournament, and then they're not making the NCAA tournament at all. So how are you feeling at this moment in time ahead of the final game of the regular
season? Bad. I mean, they just lost their last 3 games each by one possession or in overtime on all of them, or maybe one of them technically wasn't one possession, but and any one of them that they had won would have put them in a pretty feasible position to get themselves into the tournament by beating Iowa. They couldn't get a dang one. Oh man, they're gonna win. Oh, they called a jump. So it's bad, Josh. Like it's terrible. It was so freaking close. 3 games. I mean, we've been through this life before as football fans. So close, right? You just get one of them, and one thing goes wrong in one game, blah, 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 and then it would have been great. And they had beaten Michigan, it would have been great. If they had won last night, it would have been really good. and that would change. It would sure change the outlook and the feeling at Pinnacle Bank Arena on Sunday, because that place would have been lit up on Sunday coming off a win.
What's the atmosphere going to be now?
It's going to be a sellout. I don't know. It helps that it's senior day, I think.
And then it's Iowa.
It helps that it's senior day and it's Iowa. Yes, for sure. I think for sure. But I'm not like, so I feel bad, and I wouldn't say I feel optimistic by any means. I don't know how you could. I don't like, I would not bet on them, going 3-0 over the next 3, which is the minimum I think they have to do to get into the tournament. But, there's some things. This has kind of happened before. They've gone on runs at the end of the season when it didn't look like they were going to. It's weird because I was looking at the situation in Tim Miles last season, and they lost 4 brutal games. If any of them they had won, well, especially if 2 of them they had won, they would have put themselves kind of right on the bubble. They lost to at Michigan State. They had Michigan and Lincoln. They lost that. They lost at Penn State. I can't remember what the other one was. They lost 4 games. And so they got down to that last Iowa game that year where it kind of, they had 17 wins. No, that's not right. They had maybe 16 wins at that time. They were a little worse than Nebraska is now this year, but not a lot. And then that was the game where Thorben Jarnason blocked Bohannon from Iowa. And like, I remember going to that game and feeling the way that probably even more so that people will feel going to this game, because they were just a couple of games worse. So they were a little further off the bubble. You felt like they would have had to go, like people were like, well, they have to go to the championship and probably win it to go to the tournament. And I remember going to that Iowa game and they pulled it off. And I was like, that was your Johnny and I had tickets to the Big Ten tournament. And so
Correct.
I was like, okay, at least we got that
they're
momentum.
Going in with a little
like,
momentum,
like we had already planned, we're going to go to this one Rutgers game, and then we're just going to sightsee the rest of the time. We had like sold ourselves, that it was just
going to be a one and done.
They lost 4 in a row. Like, and what's his name had gotten hurt a few weeks before, like a month or 2 before. And so tore up his knee against Ohio State. And then we went to Chicago. We drove down there, and they beat Rutgers that first night. And nice comeback. And that's when Tim Miles fell over, run into the locker room, and then come back the next day and you're like, okay, well, they got one win. That was fun. We'll go see this afternoon game against Maryland. And then we'll do our sightseeing and start the whole thing. And then they go out, because remember, that team you also felt like you had talent at the core of it with 2 or 3 players, but you had no supporting cast.
Yes.
And they also had lack of bodies on that team. Remember, they were down to like 7 scholarship players. It was 7 scholarship players before the game. So you're like, there's no way they can really, win more than 1 game here. And then they went in and somehow 2 NBA guys on Maryland, 2 NBA bigs on Maryland, and all they do is double team them with Johnny Trueblood, and it works. it completely works. There was nothing that said that should have worked. I don't have to work tomorrow, though. Yes. That's why I'm watching this Nebraska game. This is about whether or not I have to work tomorrow afternoon.
Nice.
It's sort of like a snow day in some ways.
It really is.
Show.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Good job, Britt. Fist bump. Thanks for the day off.
Nice.
And so I don't know, like little things like that make me think, well, I'm just not gonna do the thing where I'm just like, it's over. There's no, I'm just not. You guys know that, though. I mean, I'm gonna savor.
You'll do that during the game. You'll wait until the game starts, and then you'll say, "This is going to hell," and nothing good is going to ever happen.
I probably
will.
But
before the game, you always believe in them.
Like,
it's very strange.
I enjoy. I mean, for whatever it's worth, for me, maybe other fans don't feel this way, but like, I've had so many marches, Josh, where I'm watching every other fan base watch conference tournaments and care, and and whether they're talking about seeding, where I look at the teams on the bubble that are like far off the bubble. And I'm even jealous of them. And I'm like, yeah, but man, imagine like they get a few things that go right. Maybe they get a game or 2, like that first round Big Ten or first round conference tournament game is weirdly big for them. This is when one of the many, many years that Nebraska is below 500 or at 500. And I'm always jealous. Just like, I would just like to experience, this is baby steps. I would like to experience the feeling of just caring. at this time of year, and still having something out there. And I guess technically you always have it out there that they could win the conference tournament, but that's kind of a real long shot. And so they have a long shot, but it's not a Hail Mary like winning the conference tournament. It's winning 3 games, 2 of which you'll probably be favored by Vegas in. Is
that what you think the number is? Because John and I had that discussion, I think, yesterday. I said 4. He said 3, and you say 3. So I'm trying to figure out if I'm wrong or if you guys are wrong.
Well, and that's not my own. Like, I've been looking at bracketology stuff and looking at people asking them questions and reading their responses. I'm not saying 3 guarantees it, but I do think 3 gets them back onto the true bubble.
You'd go to bed feeling like not terrible if they won 3.
I mean, I guess the truth of it is, you look at most of the bracketology now, Nebraska is the 3rd or 4th team out. So it feels like if you win 3,
where they are? Is that where they are? That's interesting.
I mean, like, I don't know where Lenardi has him, but everyone that I've seen were the 3rd or 4th team out.
Yeah.
So
for some reason, do you ever have the issue where you go to Bracket Matrix and it's like, this website is going to break your computer? Okay, I have to go do it on a different browser.
I'll go on it right now, but I hate Bracket Matrix because you have brackets that have come in over the course of a week.
Yeah, they are.
So
right?
it sucks.
Yeah, you're right. So right now they are.
Nebraska's
the
first team out.
Off, on that.
But I don't trust that.
So what do you look at? You're looking at Bart's.
So I like
T-Rankology.
I don't see. Bart's is more of a
predictor.
He's got a built-in as like a predictor of how they're going to finish the season. It's not kind of estimate. It doesn't like study the committee. But I've been looking at like that T3 bracketology because he interacts with a lot of people on Twitter. What other?
Yeah, for the record, on there, Nebraska is where is Nebraska? They are his 5th team out.
Okay, 5th
is where.
So that's one of the lower ones that I've actually seen. Well, he's the guy who says he's a guy who I quoted a tweet a while ago, even before the Ohio State game, that said if they won only 1 game, if they won 2 games in the tournament, that was still a path in for them. So TK, no, not TK. No, that's Tim Kruger. I don't know what his is. I don't really look at his because he's kind of mean to me sometimes. But I'm just kidding. But I don't remember they're all ones I follow on Twitter. What's Lenardi have? I don't look at Lenardi.
Lenardi, at least the Bracket Matrix one, had it updated as at a 12. D'Lo says 20 wins doesn't get them any shot. 20 wins with that quad 1 record. So I guess my argument
that is 20 wins, right?
Yeah. Well,
he's asking you, I guess.
Yeah. 20 wins. That would mean a win against Iowa, and then only 2 wins. So that would only require 2 more wins in the Big Ten tournament, so 3 wins total.
I meant 3 total. That's what I was saying. I'm sorry.
Okay. I was talking about
if I misstated that. Sorry.
I was misunderstanding you. I thought that they had to win. So you don't think they have to win 3 Big Ten tournament games? You just think they have to win 3 games
to get in to have a chance? Yeah. Yes, 2.
So am I? Okay.
So
am I wrong then? Because I guess my thought has been something that you and I have talked about. And I know you and Caleb have really talked about, and that is, conference tournament wins are not as valuable as the regular season wins because they have their seeding. It's basically about seed line stuff. Your teams are already in, barring something weird happening. So I guess my argument that they have to go on a really deep run, even though two wins after the Iowa win in theory would get them to 20. Well, yeah, but you only had 18 at the end of the regular season, and so it's more about where they would be going into the conference tournament than it would be.
Yeah, I've always said I've said on this show many times,
you said
for
20
2 weeks, I've said a net of 20 between, not a net ranking, but net wins between the regular season, and that would still get them there. One of the things about it, Josh, though, is that second win would be a quad 1 win. Almost for sure. In
the Big Ten. So it'd be another quad 1 win.
So it'd be another quad 1 win. Yeah.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, that's true. Bruce says this is how I have always perceived conference tournaments, at least based on what I've heard on 1620. Yeah, I guess that's how I have always viewed them too, though, and that's just based off.
None of the bracketologists now are saying that I'm reading, but you could. I mean, it could be right, but I'm not seeing any of them say no. They can't improve. They can't improve their spot right. I think it's a little different, Josh, when you're talking about the 8 teams battling for 4 spots. In the bubble. I think they're looking for I think the committee is looking for anything to try and make it easy about who's off, who's on, and who's off. And as long as you keep winning, That's pretty significant. So
Brendan says, does the committee emphasize how you play down the stretch like a late losing record? So late losing streak. They say they don't. They used to. They're used to. If you used to watch like games when I was growing up, and certainly Jack when you were growing up, they would often talk about your record in the last 10 games. The committee says that they don't do that anymore. So in theory, they are not supposed to do that, or they at least don't care about it. I still think that the human biases are going to come into play because I know that they would for me, right? Like if I am picking a tournament, this team that is, what are they now? 1-6 or 1-5 in their last 6, 1-6 in the last 7, whatever they are. Like I would look at that team and say, yikes, they're really struggling right now. I don't like the cut of their jib. It's going to be hard for me to consider keeping them in, but that's just going off of my own brain. It's a bunch of different people that are using their own brains.
I mean, right now it's just about comparing Nebraska and Oklahoma and Arkansas and Boise State. And I mean, it's a really simple game of comparing. And again, as I've said before, these are all teams that are not winning out at the end either.
Correct.
They're not necessarily losing like every game, but
yes,
if Nebraska won those 3 games, it would kind of take away that whole stigma of the losing streak they just went on. Right.
Yeah.
So
I guess you hope so.
Yeah, I don't listen. I don't know what the committee is going to do, and
yeah.
I that's why I kind of defer to what the bracketologists are going to say because they pay more attention to that. For what it's worth, team rankings has Nebraska the 3rd team out, the 3rd at large.
That loss is killer right now. What kind of discussion are we having if they win that game the other night?
Oh, that the Iowa probably locks it up, and it feels like no sit Sunday. Yeah.
God,
yep.
That stinks.
Let's see. We really needed Maryland. We need Maryland to lose last night. Could have had no. Well, I actually there is one spot I would disagree with that because it's kind of a technicality. But the reason it was good is because it helped Nebraska a lot. If they would happen to lose to Iowa, still make the Big Ten tournament. They needed it for those purposes. And also, you want Northwestern to be involved in any tie with Nebraska because that's the one. That's the problem with the standings in the Big Ten is Nebraska's bunched up with USC and Rutgers and Minnesota and who they all lost to, right?
Yeah.
Except they beat Northwestern.
Yes.
And so that's the problem.
Josh asks, does a double OT loss on the road carry more weight than a 20-point loss? It's definitely better for you.
Question.
It's definitely better for you. Like that was one of the things that we were talking about, earlier in the season. That's like, God, they keep losing all these games and they're losing them by a lot of points. Like, this is not doing them any favors. So, yeah, at least that game went down to the wire.
Yeah.
At least that one went down to the wire.
No, I was strongly cheering for Maryland in that game, actually, oddly enough.
There was a comment, too, from Jordan, and I guess maybe this is the better discussion, I guess, at least in my mind. And Jordan says, I just don't see how they can do it. They are far too inconsistent. That's kind of what, like these discussions are fun. Like, here's what you need. Here's what you got to hope for. But man, I mean, when you eventually boil it down to it, it's like, okay, so can they do that? I mean, you
very well could be right. Very well could be right.
You mentioned the run that they went on a few years ago. That one was a total surprise. Totally caught everybody off guard. Can they do that again? Could they go on a run like that again?
I mean, that's one of the things is just whether it's this team specifically or sports, it just happens all the time. When you're sure, I say this in football season constantly.
Yeah, you said it a lot last year.
Every time you're sure you know who a team is, and this doesn't just apply to Nebraska, you never can depend on that. And it's happened for good and for bad. Frankly, it's happened for good and for bad for Nebraska all year. Like, if there was ever a team, I mean, this team was like, think of it, went on a streak of being really good, right? And then went on a streak of being really bad, and you're like, oh, man. And then went on a streak again of being really good. And then now they're on a streak of being really bad. Like, if we keep the pattern going, what's next? It's not, right? It's not, I don't quite understand. I don't totally, I understand the thought that winning 3 in a row can be difficult, and they have had problems, and they could have problems. But I don't understand that, like, well, they can't come back from now looking this bad when they already have this year. And then they fell into it again. Yeah,
so, I mean, for me, it's like, I don't believe that they're going to, Jack. So I'm a part of that group that doesn't think that they're going to do it. And part of it, I think, is recency bias.
I don't think it's more than a 50% chance they're going to win 3 games in a row. So I guess I agree.
Yeah.
Like, I hope I don't come off that I'm saying I think they're going to do it.
No, you don't. You definitely come off.
I think they're going to beat Iowa.
It could happen. See,
Yeah,
and I think I disagree with you. I don't think they're going to beat Iowa. But
okay.
I don't think they are. But I don't have any real trust or faith in them, which is perhaps unfair because they did just go to double overtime versus a team that is also in this exact same mix. And
they haven't even looked terrible in any of these 3 games they lost either. That's
no, and so am I being unfair and holding the Penn State game, like still so close to the chest?
The Penn State game was terrible.
That's not that long ago, it's only
it was 4 games ago. So
yeah.
I don't know. I keep
thinking about that game.
I have a hard time just imputing Nebraska's performance from one game to the one that's about to follow it because the exact word he used, inconsistency, right? And
they're inconsistently consistent, or they're consistently inconsistent, rather.
Yeah. So,
but DW says that's very fair. This team is just so inconsistent, and that's how I view them. I was like, I don't trust them, and I know you don't trust them either. But I'm also, I guess, not just saying like, yeah, but maybe it could happen. I don't
know. I definitely think I did not think they were going into Oregon and winning that game.
No, me
from
neither,
wire to wire after the law. Like I was way less confident about that than them winning a couple of games now because of how terrible they had looked. Mm-hmm. And then they go in and they looked like the better team.
That might be their best game of
the more
season,
mature team
outside of the Creighton game.
Yeah, they never got frazzled. They answered every time in that game. And so but that happened, right? And so so I'm gonna have, and again, it goes back to I'm not gonna ever give up on a season. Like I just don't do that as a fan. And I'm not saying people who do it are wrong. Like I get how you could feel that way, but like part of the enjoyment, I mean, the ultimate enjoyment is winning, Josh, but the next best thing is the anticipation of the chance of winning.
Sure.
And like, I don't want to take that out of my life. I like even if, even if I did think it was a long shot, like I always got just a little bit excited in the terrible years about the conference tournament. Cause it was always like, what if though, like what if they went on a weird run, and they never did. But that doesn't mean those hours and those days before that game, I didn't enjoy sort of like, hey, man, there's a chance of one. I like that. I enjoy it. I do it. I don't have a desire to sort of like protect my feelings right now and with this team. And so, I'm not gonna tell myself that it's over. There's no chance that they can do it. And again, I think they're going to be favorites by Vegas in the first 2 games that they play.
How about this? D'Lo agrees with you. Perfectly said, Jack. Isn't it? And I've joked with Josh a couple of times the last few days. Basketball D'Lo is so different than football D'Lo. It is wild because that's
like me kind of though.
We came on the air on a lot of those Saturdays in the fall, and you were like, man, but what if? And he's like, you're an idiot. Why in the world would you think that they're going to do any of these things on the football field? But now it's basketball, and you say it, and he's like, couldn't agree with you more, Jack. What if they're able to do it? It's like, what? But why? What is it about the football and the basketball teams that causes like such wild differences of how the fan bases approach? It's so interesting to me. And I know we hit on that a little bit on the pod the other night when we did the watch party. But like you during basketball games are the most pessimistic person I've ever met. But during football games, you're like, if you have any negativity, you can die in a fire tonight. I don't get it. I don't understand it.
You're right. I don't know. I mean, I guess I can tell you, like, I feel like basketball is more like it's like there's a whole bunch of kids playing in a room, right? Your kids and all their friends and stuff. And one of the friends is one of the other kids is acting up or doing something, and you're like, okay, let's not do that. And then your kid does it, and you're like, you freaking stop that now, right? Like that's Nebrasketball, and the friend is football for whatever reason, because I feel more, I don't know what it is, more intimately involved with Nebraska basketball than I do football.
You're the voice of the fan. You are Mr. Basketball.
Again, this is what I always go back to. I have spent
a lot of time there.
20 times the amount of time, and this is probably true of everybody. I've spent 20 times the amount of time who went to games at basketball games in my life than I ever did at football games.
Sure.
So
because there's just more of them.
It's just a more of a it's just a more involved relationship with Nebraska basketball.
Well, and with basketball, and this isn't the first time anyone's made this point. It's like there has never been the true glory, and so it makes it makes all of you like, diehards, you stand out a little bit more with this program, I think, than you do. Everyone's a football fan. Like you're not special.
And the football fan is actually still the football fans at large. The people that I interact with are still on balance. Football fans are way more negative than basketball fans. It's not even close.
You think football fans are?
Football fans are way more negative. Yes. At least that I interact with. The Nebraska basketball fan is still at its core always a hopeful bunch. I think there are obviously some voices, I mean, even in here that don't feel that way, and so I feel like a little bit more, I don't know. I just tend to go away from the crowd on things, I think. And I
definitely think that's the case. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? Like part of it too is, Jack, that because the size of the fan bases are so different, the football fans are going to have so many more. And so, the negative fans that I know you just mentioned, like there's just going to be more of them. If all of those football fans were like also diehard basketball fans, I bet you'd be saying the same thing. It's just a lot of them just check out because they've never had the reward of basketball, whereas they have, at least the older fans have at least had the reward with football.
You know, it's hard too. Like, I feel like I know the X's and O's of football a lot better than I do of basketball. I don't know how that plays into it at all, but like, I mean, again, I'm not a football coach, but like, it's a sport I at least played long enough to have, know something going on. I feel like I understood it, and I've watched more of it at different levels, and I know the sport, but I've never purported to be any kind of an X's and O's expert at basketball whatsoever. Like, I'm just proud sometimes I can recognize a zone and be like casually say during one of our watch alongs, like, ooh, they went into a zone, that's about that's like John Wooden stuff for me. So I don't know how that factors into the whole thing either, but
Travis says, I was just going to say the same thing about X's and O's for football versus basketball. I know the objective of basketball, but struggle to follow the strategy.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And I feel like I got a lot of people in football who are negative, the things that they say about strategy.
Because it always turns into a run the ball thing with you.
Yes. Yeah, there's all kinds of like that stuff. And I can't be that. I'm not that critical of anybody's like strategy suggestions for basketball because I don't really talk in that language. I mean, I do have
one. They run the pick and roll more.
Right. No, but I mean, I think Bryce Williams should drive way more. That's what I think.
You do today.
But
yeah.
You don't need a regular Chuck Daly to tell you that or anything,
Nice reference.
I don't know.
Nice reference.
I don't know why.
D'Lo says, I guess I'm just so sick and tired of the football program. Exhausted, more likely. To which Stumanji says, but not basketball?
It's a different. I get what he's saying, though. It's like when the basketball season, it just starts like the pressure of football. You've been through the ringer with the pressure of football and talking about football. And when basketball gets here, it's just like, oh, God, we can breathe again.
That's so interesting. That's why you and I doing this pod together is so great, because I feel like I represent the Stumanjis and then you represent the, I don't know, I guess the D'Los of the world in this conversation. Because I am someone who is like,
you like that, D'Lo?
I don't understand how any of you Husker basketball fans do it, and I cannot believe that you guys continue to come back for more every single year. It's wild to me. It's like impossible to understand. I mean, not really. I come back for more with all my stupid teams, and I'm never going to get happiness from it. But you basketball diehards are a special breed, man, because you're not the Cubs, but you don't ever have anything good. You have like a couple games a season, but you never get the reward of the postseason.
Josh, there's something about never having anything good that allows you to appreciate small victories more.
It does. So
Jack, there's
that
more.
Is spot on. That is spot on.
And then the other
masochist, yes.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's what it is. I mean, yes, there is a little bit of that for sure, but I think that's what it is, Josh. Like, even talk about how sad it is that I celebrate small victories, but like, as I just said at the beginning, there's a part of me that's really excited, even just to still be in a position where I see Nebraska on a last 4 out graphic right now. And they still have games left, and they've got a game Sunday. And after that game was over against Ohio State, I was done with the season. I wasn't going to look at it. And as usual, my position totally changed. And so I'm going to spend the time anticipating it, getting excited for what could possibly happen during the course of it. And if nothing else, that process is something that I haven't gotten in tons of other years. And then again, the other thing about the basketball season, Josh, that feels lighter is you always know there's going to be moments. We talked about this before. there will always be moments of pretty big joy every year. Every
There
year
are.
there will be
They always
moments,
do, they
and there are
always do
Nebraska
something.
football seasons when there's not one. There have
Yeah.
been multiple where there's not one, but there's been multiple this year.
Jack, that's a great point. Like last year, you forget about the NCAA tournament run. They beat the number 1 team in the country. Like that alone is something that the football program hasn't even had the equivalent of it in one of the down years. Like you think about, you watch college football every Saturday, and every 3 or 4 weeks you get one of these upsets where you're like, whoa, I wonder what it's like for that downtrodden fan base to finally beat a good team. Meanwhile, Nebraska football, like at least last year they had 2 memorable wins. They had the Colorado win, they had the Wisconsin win. But otherwise, you said it. You can go years, you can go seasons without Nebraska football giving you any ounce of like that pure release type win. Whereas the basketball team does it every single year. Every year, no matter how bad they are, they get at least one of those wins every single year.
You know what's another weird emotion I had at that Wisconsin game? And I was glad they won, but I was like, I'm glad they won. I obviously wasn't complaining at them for celebrating, but I myself couldn't be like, woo. And even they made a bowl, but one of the feelings I had among many going away from that game was, God, I wish they beat Wisconsin when they were really good. I wish that's what this was. I wish they beat them. And I never feel like that with Nebraska basketball. Right?
Except when Bryce Williams finally drives and he scores, and then you get mad about all the other times it doesn't happen. That is the equivalent. That's a handshake meme. Getting mad about not beating former Wisconsin teams. Bryce Williams, why don't you do this every single possession?
I'm just more like run the ball guy for basketball.
Apparently. You really are. That is the run the ball guy for basketball.
Bryce Williams, it is a great combo or a great comparison. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah. That's definitely
it's an interesting thing. I know everybody's a little bit different about the whole thing, but man, if I really liked them, I will never do a thing with any team I like where I come in and they've done something good during the season at some point, but then decided, oh, now it's gone bad. It's all gone to hell. It'll never go good again. I'll never do that.
You don't even do that with the Royals. They're like, they could lose like
not if they've
30 games.
If they've lost. Yes, if they've lost. But that's not what this team is. That's not what Nebraska basketball has done. If they have during the season shown capabilities of being a good team in multiple games, as this team has, I just am never just going to buy that. Oh, they lost it. They lost whatever they had outside of some kind of crazy injury or something like that.
Man, that's
so
wild.
They're in a bad streak. I think you have the wild opinion if you think that's wild.
No, I'm definitely living, in the here and now more. And so maybe you're too close to the recent losses, but I think that's how most fans operate. Is like, are things good? Cool. Are they bad? Horrible. Like, I'm always worried. Like,
I still think I think the losses were bad. I just don't assume everything after it is going to happen. And by the way, if you did that this year, you would have been wrong 4 times in a row. So great job. Are you ready for your 5th?
Well, you would have been wrong for 4 chunks in a row. But after the Iowa game, if you would have said they're about to go sideways, you would have been right because they lost 6 in a row. And then when they beat Oregon, if you're like, hey, maybe they're going to rip off a few in a row.
No, I just don't know how many times. I don't know how many times they've got to either in this year or over this coaching staff do this thing where they just out of where it looks like they suck, and then all of a sudden they go on a run. How many times I do that till people will say it's not impossible anymore? But
yeah,
they always.
Well,
that's fatalism. It's fatalism, and I do it during games. So it's
exactly. You do this during games. So why is it so confusing that people do it for the whole season?
I don't know. I don't have an explanation for everything. The heart does what the heart does.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now.
I don't know. Beat Iowa. Get to that tournament game. Play Rutgers or someone, and then let's see. One game. One game that they want, and the team that they're going to be playing probably doesn't care much about.
And so if they win, I know that everyone's been going to that one website, basketball.net/basketball or whatever it is. If they win, what is their most likely seed? What seed are we talking about? And AKA, what time will Nebraska play basketball next Wednesday if they beat Iowa? Let's do some of this stuff. Let's game this out. Let's game this situation out.
All right. All right. So here it is. So Michigan State beats Iowa.
Everything chalk.
Leave everything and just get the Iowa win, or give the Nebraska the Iowa. Yeah. All right. So chalk on their chalk at least. If that happened, Nebraska would be the 12th seed.
They'd be a 12th seed.
and they would play Northwestern in game 1, which is the one team you don't want to play of that group, by the way, in game 1. But
and that'd be the first game of the whole tournament, and so that game would be at 2:30 Central Time on Wednesday. And so if they won that game,
they'd play Wisconsin,
and that would be the second game of the day on Thursday.
1:30 on Thursday. And then if they won that, they'd play Michigan. So
and that would be the 1:30 game on Friday.
See, man, I wish they could get to a different. I don't love that combo of teams. I really wish they could get Minnesota again. I wish somehow they could meet Minnesota. Which they
is that Nebraska needing to move up on the Big Ten seed line, or is that Minnesota needing to fall?
No, Minnesota needs to move. Let's give Minnesota. So one of the chalk ones they had was Rutgers over Minnesota. Let's give Minnesota that win and see what happens. Okay. Just changing one game. Then Nebraska plays Rutgers, and then Wisconsin, and then Michigan.
Okay.
Still not Minnesota.
Yeah.
There's probably other things you could do by screwing around with it, but I can't. I can't find it. So, I mean, I could find it, but I'll be like, what if I give USC the win against UCLA also? Then Nebraska plays USC. Still Wisconsin and Michigan, those last two. I would have to change some of those results with those two teams, but Penn State's not going to beat Wisconsin. No. And I don't think Michigan's going to beat Michigan State on the road. So, yeah, I don't
know. A rivalry game, anything can happen.
All right, let's all right, well, let's give it to Michigan and go back to chalk on the rest. Michigan beats Michigan State, and then Nebraska's would have Wisconsin and then Purdue. So let's go back to Michigan.
Yeah. You know what? I'm happy we worked through that because now it doesn't sound so bad.
That 12, that's a terrible spot to be in. You'd rather be in either of those other games.
D-Dub says 20, I'm going to read two comments because first Alex says at minimum they win 6 games they've blown. Oh, I guess that was in response to a different thing. People were asking about what if this team had a point guard, but then D-Dub said 23 wins with this schedule is 6 or 7 seed territory. Man, I have tried not to do the what if game this week because I think that it's stupid and, butterfly effect and all that stuff. But man, Jack, you look at some of the games that they have blown where they very much had an opportunity. I mean, Bryce is at the free throw line. At the very least. Yeah, they have the lead late against Minnesota. I can't remember. Oh, the Michigan game was before that. It's like, man, 1 or 2 of those games go the other way. And there are others throughout the regular season. I mean, hell, you go all the way back to the St. Mary's game in November where it's like, man, imagine if this or this goes different for them. Just the type of, or maybe that was December, but the type of conversation that we would be having about them right now. But the ones lately, especially, Penn State aside, the other 3 losses that they have had, all of them very, very winnable. I think they played well against Maryland. I never really thought that they had a shot in that game. They very much had a shot in Michigan. They very much had a shot against Minnesota. They didn't play very well for a half. And then obviously they very much had a shot against Ohio State. They have to, this is obvious, Jack, they have to get off to a better start. They have to get off to a better start. They cannot keep putting themselves in a stupid hole.
Yeah, I've spent so much time thinking about the last 5 minutes of regulation in the overtimes against Ohio State. It's like I can barely even remember what happened at the beginning of that game now. Like we never did the full.
They got off to a really, really slow start. Slow start. Like, they were down by 11, I think, at most.
Is that what it was?
Point in time. Yeah. Because remember, there was that moment where we're going to turn the stream off. This is horrible. Everyone was really, really miserable. And then it turned into a super fun game and just it's like incredibly back and forth.
It's like I can tell you all of the possessions in both the overtime, but I'm like, I don't know what happened in the first half.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Let me ask you this then. Like when they were struggling, what was the problem? Right? What was
defense?
First, defense.
Yeah. Remember, they were getting a lot of easy shots, and they were they were also doing the thing that everybody does against Nebraska. Hey, we're going to make a bunch of threes. You've never heard of me before? Check out this tray. Yep. It's going into the hoop.
The one before half. Oh, God. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man. Talk about a play that I totally forgot about. It's a 3-point game, and then they make a 3, and it's suddenly a 6-point game. God, I totally forgot about that, Jack.
They got it down to 3, didn't they?
They did. They did.
Yeah, it's defense. You're right. It's defense, and then it's just the offense will always play, not always. The offense will sometimes play one half at a level like where they did it against Minnesota. They did it against Northwestern. They did it in this game. Like they play in the second half, but not the first. It's so odd. And Bryce plays a different way in the second half than he does in the first.
Yeah.
It's just why it doesn't ever start that way. I don't know. I really don't know. In Michigan, they never played offense. That's true. Michigan, they never played offense at all.
See,
That one they just played amazing defense.
Yeah, that and I know that we have said the words inconsistent like 4 or 5 times over the last few minutes, but like, dude, the inconsistency of even the offense and the defense from game to game. Like, man, if you would have told me after the Creighton game that the defense would be a liability in matchups this year, I would have said, how? How is that defense going to be a problem for Nebraska? And yet it has been. The defense in some games, like Michigan, like Creighton, is like, holy shit, they are flying around and they are making a ton of plays. And then in others, like this one, they can't stop anything. And I think it was Sam McEwen this week who brought it up, like they have these games, and against Ohio State, they went with different lineups, and it helped them because they were getting a lot of offense. And then other times they go with those defensive lineups, and obviously they're able to get stops. But even within that, they're still not, super duper consistent from game to game.
They only have 2 dynamic players. I mean, They only have 2 dynamic players on the team.
Yeah.
It's not that none of the other ones can do anything.
It's just they're all inconsistent too.
They're inconsistent, and they have glaring weaknesses. Every single one of them has a glaring weakness.
Yeah. Asijan, I think it was supposed to be better this year, right? Like him being what he is. I know his numbers. He's probably still a 40%.
He's good. He's still a bit of a defensive liability, though.
100%.
I mean,
but on offense, he's not what he.
But I mean, I think you knew that. I think that's why I didn't get time at Wisconsin last year.
Yeah, for sure.
So I mean, you knew that. That's not.
So if you're gonna be bad on that end, you have to make up for it with great offense, and he has not even been able to make up for it.
Consistent great offense. Sam Hoiberg, solid on defense. Can't do much offensively. He's hitting some threes now, but same thing, right? You can go through every single one. Andrew Morgan doesn't play a lot of defense, tries not to foul, turnover machine. Also, he's one of the few players who can score in the paint on the team.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Braxton Mia brings his own set of issues. Every single one has like a glaring weakness, even if there are strengths as well, outside of I think, and Bryce and Juwan, their glaring weakness is that they just don't play their games sometimes.
Yeah.
When they play their games, there isn't a glaring weakness in their games.
How about this from Fight? 6 losses by a total of 16 points, 4 losses by a total of 118 points. Dude, it's like the Bo Pelini era mixed in with the Scott Frost era at the same time. Hey, you like close losses? Here's a handful of them. Hey, you want to get your ass beat a couple of times too? No problem at all. Here you go. Because seriously, they had Michigan State run off the floor, Purdue run off the floor, Wisconsin, and then Penn State? Is that the other nasty blowout, or am I forgetting?
No, Purdue, Michigan State,
Wisconsin. Who's the other one?
Is there a fourth one?
Yeah, who am I forgetting?
Penn State didn't blow them out that badly. It was not.
Yeah, I guess it was double digits, but
that was not. It didn't feel like those other 3.
You don't think so? I thought
not to those felt like the Harlem Globetrotters.
Yeah, I guess I missed the beginning of the Wisconsin game, and so when I got home, I was like, "Wait, what the hell?" The score? Because what were they down, like 19-2 or something like that in that game?
They were. I mean, those other 3 games, it was just Harlem Globetrotter amazing stuff. They looked like they didn't. They were at a. They looked like.
By the way, Penn State was 17 points. So I mean, still not very good.
Yeah, I don't know. I just didn't feel that. I didn't feel like they were completely incapable of doing it. The defense was incapable all night, but it wasn't like
the offense was
like
scoring
the
a little
highlight
bit.
reel stuff necessarily. It was a lot of layups, and the offense was able to score in the second half too.
Penn State game was the one game where it seemed like they were quitting.
In all of those, what the commonality was Bryce Williams. Bryce Williams wasn't anything like he was in the second half of that game.
Yeah,
he wasn't even shooting the ball. That's what everything that happened in that losing streak. I mean, at one point you can find a tweet during I think the Wisconsin game where I said this team is worse with Bryce Williams on the floor right now.
You did, yeah. You were openly wondering like what the hell has happened to this guy, and now of course he's turned it around. I mean what did he have?
That's the explanation of that number Dave just put up, by the way. That's when you don't have Bryce Williams and Juwan Gary.
Oh, man, that's maybe this is a topic for you guys tomorrow, but you look at the Bryce Williams numbers in the good games or the close losses, you look at the Bryce Williams numbers in the blowouts, and I bet it will definitely tell that type of story.
If you don't have, and I say you don't have him, he was there, but he's not being Bryce Williams like we've seen him be, then you're not playing with a Big Ten starter on the floor at all during the game.
Yeah.
And so, when you play Purdue, they're going to beat the hell out of you. Yes.
Yeah,
Michigan State is going to beat the hell out of you. That roster doesn't have enough complete players to compete against those sorts of teams. And if they do well the next 3 games, Josh, guess what? It's going to have to be the Bryce show. He's going to have to accept that. He better have 40. He's going to have, if they do really well tomorrow night, Bryce Williams is going to be flirting with 40 again on Sunday. Yeah. I mean,
a couple comments, Jack, before we get ready to say goodbye. Travis says, so, any new Scott Frost stories? Bruce says, any quick Matt Rule talk? And then I-Formation points out, Severance is now out, which is why we did the pod earlier tonight.
Oh, you did? That is, I forgot why. No, okay. I thought you said, I don't know.
Jack,
I don't know. I don't have any Matt. I don't know what's going on with Matt Rule, so I have
dude, people keep writing about him nationally. You should go check out the Husker football channel inside of the I-80 Club Discord server sometime. It's pretty cool.
There's so much on there. I feel like I can't get caught up on it, and I'm working on my radio channel sometimes, so I can't.
Yeah, I can tell. Matt Rule, Jack, continues to say, well, I guess he hasn't really said anything in a week, but his words are now continuing to be used, I would say, against him by some of the national scribes. Stuart Mandel went after him pretty hard. Tom Fornelli didn't so much go after him. He was just like, all right, cool. If you don't want to play non-conference games of merit, why doesn't the Big Ten and SEC go to 10 conference games moving forward? So he has very much become a loud voice within college football. It doesn't seem like anybody nationally really agrees with him, but I don't agree with him on any of this stuff either. So I don't think it's
either. I mean, I said it too, right? So
yeah, for sure.
So great job, national media, telling me I was right. Thanks.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of people around here definitely disagree. So
yeah, it's an unpopular sentiment.
No, I'm saying they disagree with the scribes.
Oh, well, that's fine.
Including some of the folks in the Husker football channel inside of the I-80 Discord.
And that's totally fine if they do. We're free to have different opinions on this. I can't, I don't really take the national media, Fornelli or whoever you said, critiquing Matt Rule as a big deal, given that I did that exact same thing and you did that same thing. So, what? I don't know. It's talk season, Josh. This stuff is,
I know.
Man, this stuff is irrelevant to me in almost any way other than just needing something to talk about the season for people who want college football content. I mean, if another coach said that, I would, and I saw a headline, I don't know, pick a coach that had, say, Kirby Smart said something about scheduling in the non-conference. The quickness with which I would not click on that link to read or care about that story this time of year is blinding. And so, I feel bad. I could not give less of a crap that Matt Rule is doing interviews and talking about scheduling, and some people don't like it.
Is it days like today or days like the last couple of weeks where you're like, you know what, it's kind of nice not having to do a sports show, because that does definitely fill up a lot of segments on our shows.
I mean, I just did a sports show, but it's basketball right now. That's what I'm thinking about. That's what I'm watching. That's what's interesting. And if we're going to talk about football, it's not that I don't want to talk about football either. That's not even the way more. I heard you guys talking about the spring game thing. That's a lot more interesting to me. I mean, I got 10 football topics that are more interesting than the spring game, than the Matt Rule interviews about scheduling.
Well, and hey, maybe this is one that we could do on Saturday, because by that point in time, Nebraska still wouldn't have played a game, so we're not going to have anything new on Nebraska hoops ahead of the Iowa game. But you and I have done some variation of why is it so quiet this year with Husker football, and I brought that onto my radio show multiple times because I think I've definitely noticed it, and I think you're an interesting barometer for it whenever we discuss it. But Shafe, I thought, had the best maybe reason why I feel this way, and he thinks it's because, and this is what I think you and I can unpack on Saturday, he thinks it's because nobody knows the roster. Nobody knows the players. There's no real relationship with anybody.
There's
and I know that's something right in your wheelhouse, but it's that's interesting that maybe it's not so much quiet. It's just we don't really know anything about this group yet, and we need to learn about them hopefully through spring ball, and that maybe that is going to change how we discuss them a little bit.
What do I like to talk about, and what do the majority of the commenters like about? They're two different things. I like to talk about depth charts. Right, I like to talk about position battles, and the commenters like to talk about assistant coaches and who's on the hot seat. For
the record, I like to talk about the assistant coaches in the hot seats.
And you too. So. Yeah, not everybody but me. I have this weird players thing. That's so But in any case, my point is, neither of us has those things to talk about right now. I mean, again, all that said, I'd rather talk about Mike Eckler and, coming in and going in front of the media than I would Matt Rule talking about the scheduling. Oh, God, that is a miserable topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather talk Eckler. I mean, I don't know. I'm starting to get
Let's go.
Everybody's really everybody's really positive about really
Yes,
positive.
they are.
Like, it's
Yes,
fun.
They
Like,
are.
but you know what? There's 100% a chance of within 2 years, everyone's going to want him fired.
Oh, see, why do you do this? Why
Because
can't
I've
you just
lived
live in-
this. Because it always freaking happens.
You
Josh,
always
maybe
wanna talk
because
about
it's happened with every special teams coach for 2 decades.
Why don't you
maybe.
believe?
I don't know.
Hey. Oh, so just because it's happened in the past, it means it's going to happen in the
Yes,
future. Wow,
with assistant coaches
very,
at Nebraska.
Very
yes,
interesting. Very interesting. You sound like the Nebraska basketball fans that you hate. Very interesting.
Where is
this way, so it has to happen this way.
Where is the special teams coach win on the
Unreal.
road against Oregon that
Unreal.
I've got to rely on, or the win at Creighton? It wasn't
Unreal.
there.
It's amazing how you are what you hate in basketball. You are the exact person that you despise with Husker football. It is incredible. It is absolutely amazing. Plus, you always want to talk about assistants. You just turned it to Eckler. I didn't even want to.
It's hard. It is hard to talk about players though outside of Dylan Raiola right now. Like it really is.
Definitely. Oh yeah. Well, why don't we talk about Ja'Cory Barney more? That guy was good,
true.
and we never say his name. And obviously, Emmett Johnson's still on.
That's true. Yeah.
Willis McGahee. Yeah. So yeah, maybe you and I can unpack that a little bit more on Saturday and see if it gets us anywhere. But
I think it's always like this time of year, though, isn't it?
I don't think so. This is my 11th off season. I guess my 12th. Dude, this feels different. I cannot really remember I test Emmett. Nice, Travis. I cannot really remember an off season of getting to March that felt this quiet. Like. It just is different. I don't, and maybe the obvious answer is what I just laid out, but it just seems strange, strangely quiet.
First of all, there's nothing brand new except for coordinators.
That's true. There's not. Yeah, the player.
There's no new coach. There's no new quarterback. Coach and quarterback are the two big new things. That generate content in the off season, and you've had that most of the last several years. So probably. That's probably it, right? You had that year before, the year before.
Yeah.
Until
Paul said something good. We have gotten tired of winning the offseason and still sucking, getting to the point of really needing to see it on the field. I definitely have sensed that of just like, okay, cool. Like, I just want to see it on the field. I don't even, ironically now people are like offseason champs. Like, I don't even think anybody believes that anymore.
No,
I don't think
that's that's the dumb thing about that
better.
critique. No one says that.
Yeah.
Like, no one is claiming that. Even
people just get excited about new things.
Right. You
That's
say
life.
You point out good things that someone did or could do, but nobody thinks that. Like,
I have a new house right now. This is fun, but I have no doubt in like 3 months, I'm like, God, I hate X, Y, or Z. Like, that's how everything is.
Hate that. Yeah. Fight says, how many years has Nebraska had a new head coach or a new quarterback or both coming in like this time of the season? And it's a lot of them.
Hell,
right?
Jack, let's do it real quick. Let's go to the Rolodex. So last year,
the last 2
they
years,
had the new quarterback. The year before that, they had both. They had new head coach and new quarterback.
Yep.
2022,
new quarterback, Casey Thompson, CT11.
So then you go to the Frost era, which was always the same, and that was why eventually it got kind of tiring. But Frost's first year, of course, new head coach, new quarterback. Mike Riley's last year, new quarterback. Mike Riley's second year was those two together, but Mike Riley's first year, of course, he was the new coach. It's a really good point. When you have a new head coach or a new quarterback, it does change the math.
It's like the non-Olympic years.
It's midterms.
Yeah, it's like midterms, yes.
Jack, the other thing, too, let's imagine a world where they have Dana Holgorsen after the season instead of in the season. That happening when it did, I think, did change the math on offseason discussions. Because he is now not the new thing. There are other new coaches. He is someone who has been inside. He coached 4 games already.
Yeah,
which is different.
And that's the other. Yes, because he's not an unknown anymore already.
Correct.
There were some things but did he light the world on fire? No. Right? There were good, and so normally you bring a new person in you haven't seen, and you still have potential illusions of grandeur that they're going to come in and just change it. We've already seen it, and that's the reality of what most things are. Yeah, it's a little better, right? There's still some issues, and so we don't really have that either. I get on the defensive side of, and then the defensive side of it, I think nobody's that excited about it. So
no, I wholeheartedly agree. Travis says that would have been huge for the offseason. We're not nearly as curious now. I would agree with that. And Jack, you know what? Honestly, for offseason discourse, weirdly, I think them making a bowl, but it being just like this super forgettable game in a baseball stadium is actually kind of worse for the discourse than if they would have either gone 10-2 or if they would have gone 5-7 again. Because if they would have gone 5-7, it would have been like, God, can they finally take the next step? If they would have gone 10-2, it would have been, holy shit, had they taken the next step? But instead they went 7-6. They won a bowl game, and the discourse coming out of it was that the quarterback celebrated funny. It's like, yeah, okay, congrats, you did the thing, but you didn't really do the thing I wanted.
We definitely don't talk about like who played well in that game, right?
Correct. We never do.
Because
they almost blew it. Again, they almost blew another one of those stupid
games.
We
don't talk about, we definitely don't talk about any of those things, like, or the end of the season. Because again, people generally, that's not a great topic. People are really not into players talk for the most part. But I was just thinking maybe part of it too is that there's not only not a new quarterback, but there's no huge offensive exciting newcomer. Although, I mean, Dane Key is Dane Key
going to be the guy. Yes, Dane Key will be the guy in spring ball that everyone's pumped for.
Should we be excited about him? Like, I feel we were a lot more excited last year about the receivers that came in than Dane Key.
I think that you're
during the offseason.
I think that's a good point. I think Dane Key is going to be the name this offseason. Otherwise, I don't think there will be an offseason transfer that people get jacked for. Because it's a lot of like filling holes, and not
the next positions. One would be Nwaneri. Would be
yes,
the next
that's
one.
A great point. Thank you. Yeah, his measurables are all ridiculous, so people are going to be pumped about that. Fight Dane Key greater than Mr. Banks? No, never.
I mean, he's
going on the football field.
Yeah, like I don't know. It feels like there was more excitement about the transfer class last year than there was this year.
Ooh, Alex, this is a good topic. Transfer power rankings. That'd be a fun one. We got to study the roster a little bit. Jack's too basketball pilled right now. Let's put a pin in that and save it.
You mean in terms of Nebraska's? Who they got? Well, I mean, it's Key and Nwaneri, and then it's probably McCullough. The Alabama offensive lineman is probably. I know. But in terms of football, I know. But like, if you're really asking, I think it's those four that's the Mount Rushmore of the class in terms of talent.
Let's make a graphic.
So
Dave Fighton, in theory, the long snapper is high up. He definitely is. The punter, in theory, should be high up. They are very, very important.
And by the way, there aren't too many other teams that had. I mean, of course, other than like probably the elite teams that have four guys that are ranked that highly in the portal either.
Oh, Jordan, interesting. Is it because they also seem to address every glaring weakness that they had? Now it's just wait and see. It definitely is. And how good those players will be is the
running
question.
back. I don't get why that is. The running back thing still is crazy to me. That they still just don't.
I know.
Maybe it's Quentin Ives and Emmett.
It's like their NFL team 3 years ago. They just don't give a shit about running backs.
It does feel like that.
Yeah, for sure. There you go. Hey, look at that. A little football chatter at the end of the pod. Maybe we'll do a little bit more on Saturday as we get ready for the Iowa game on Sunday.
But I do want to hear what people want to hear about. Like, I'll talk about it. It's fine. But that's the difficulty when people like talk about football. I'm like, what are you interested in about football right now? Like, that's a legit question.
It's a great question. Well, let us know what you're interested in, and maybe we'll do that on Saturday.
Or what are you thinking about right now? From and then we can hit that. So that's a good setup for Saturday, Josh.
All right. What interests you about Husker football?
What do you want?
In what way? In what avenues?
Why don't you just tell me what to say?
Why don't you just tell me what movie you want to see?
Weakest
position group.
Oh, man, I love that. That's a good topic for me.
Put these in the chat sack questions just so they'll be easier to find ahead of Saturday's pod.
If we're talking personnel and roster, now the hardest thing about it again is you just don't know who the transfers are and how good you don't know what to trust. But in terms of guys I've seen, I'll talk about that all day.
Yeah,
I'm a X's and O's guys. I like talking about that.
That's what they call you, X's and O's.
I'm a regular Vince Lombardi.
Got a seal
Chuck
here.
Daly,
seal here.
Chuck Daly, Lombardi.
Yep. Name an old baseball manager while you're at it.
Whitey Herzog.
There you go. Coming up on the I-80 Club over the next couple of days, brunch with Jack and Caleb. That's tomorrow, and it'll be the weekend for Jack because the Nebraska women won tonight. So he'll be off into the weekend. Congratulations to Jack.
Ooh.
So Jack and Caleb tomorrow at 11. They will those two plus Bigelow on Sunday for after Nebrasketball, 2-ish. The game is at 11:30. And, of course, in between that, the Saturday morning coffee show, patrons only, on Saturday morning at 9:30.
And if they lose that one to Iowa, I will be just...
Oh, God. You will be in a sour mood because they will not be going to the Big Ten tournament. And then, are you going to do a brunch show after the season, like a little retrospective? Well, that'll be interesting.
No, because it'll probably be like during the NCAA tournament, so probably.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. So maybe, we're coming to the end of brunch shows. That's very sad.
That's true because the Friday, I mean, the season will be. I guess we could do one after the if they lost, we're out in the Big Ten tournament on the Friday.
Yeah.
Or if there was or even better, if they were still playing and they had a game coming up later that day.
Yeah. Fight says NIT brunch. Yeah, NIT brunch,
yeah, but
Jack.
Yeah, I don't know if Nebraska. Here's a question that I know 80% of you aggressively don't care about, but I don't know if they go to the NIT or that Vegas thing.
The Crown.
I don't know how it works exactly.
I had somebody tell me there's no way they'll accept the Crown thing. So, but they also are getting NIL money, so we'll see if that's actually
okay.
Actually
see, and the things I had read, not from Nebraska, but from like other people talking about it, was that teams are going to want to go there. So
interesting.
I think that maybe that's part NIL is tied into that. Maybe.
Interesting.
I don't know.
All right. So maybe, I mean, either way, we're coming upon the end of the season for the brunch show. So we hope everyone's enjoyed them. Jack and Caleb tomorrow. Jack and I on Saturday for coffee.
Because I haven't for the most part.
That's true. And then Sunday, the last post-game show of the regular season with Jack, Caleb, and Bigelow. All right.
Nebraska could be a 1 seed in the NIT. 3 home games. Alex is pointing out.
Okay, you guys are freaks. Absolute monster freaks. Are you going to do a post-game show for the NIT games if they make the NIT? Wow, that would be the most sad, depressing things ever.
Being in too bad of a mood to do a post game after an NIT loss. I was at that game that Tim Miles' last game against or at home. They beat Butler in the NIT, and I was like, yeah,
amazing. No way.
And they went and lost to TCU.
NIT watch parties. All right, maybe that's the play from Travis. NIT watch parties.
That actually might be fun.
We'll get that random Indiana fan to come in and send us some super chat money, and
that was hilarious.
All right, so that's what's coming up over the next few days. And again, a reminder, if you've missed it, go check out the Volleyball State bonus pod, which went up earlier today. You can download that or find the link, which is inside of the Discord channel in the Volleyball State YouTube links channel or our regular YouTube links channel. So, and
don't forget to visit our Discord radio station for the 90s Thursday night party that's going on. KIAT.
KIAT. Just got to sound it out.
KIAT.
All right. I'm going to go watch Severance, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for dealing with our late start. For Jack, I'm Josh. Have a great night. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.